memories live on. Barstools and Bandtalk with Dave and Sean.
Perfect.
So, folks, I'm still Dave.
I'm still Sean. We're here with Harrison. Is it Marcello?
Marcello. I'm still
Marcello. You're still Harrison. So the reason why I ask is because I lived in Toronto for a time, and there was a Marcello and a Marcello. So I was, and they both pronounce it differently, right? So thank you for pointing that out. Before the break, we talked, or on the break, we were talking about your album. So you had mentioned you brought a heavy hitter in to help you guys produce and mix. Why don't you talk about that? Because that obviously takes some connections, some resources, some different sorts of things. Give us a lowdown on how that took place.
Yeah, so we had come in contact with our managers who basically found us through YouTube in a live performance we had, and they were blown away by it, and they reached out to us and became our management, and they had the connection to Chris Lord-Alge, and he had agreed to mix. It was originally 2 or 3 songs that he decided to mix for us, and they just came out amazing. Like it was night and day. It was like mind blowing because he's a legend. He's one of the best, especially in rock. And so, and what's funny is that he actually ended up resulting in our record deal with Better Noise Music, because a management, one of his friends who is part of the management team at Better Noise Music came to him in the studio, and he was so hyped on the mix that he did of Living Dangerous that he played it for him, and he immediately went back to the record label and said, "You got to sign these guys." So it's kind of like, like a lot of things that happen, especially in like the entertainment business. It's kind of those dominoes that fall into place, and we got lucky with that.
Wow. But you know what? We always talk about that. There's not a whole lot of luck in this industry. It's kind of where preparedness.
Yeah, luck was the wrong word. I should have said.
I get it.
The things can start falling into place quickly when you kind of have the find the right people.
Well, when the opportunity and preparedness meet, and like you guys you took this seriously for 3 years. You found the right guys. You got the chemistry together. The songs. Let's talk about the songs. Like, who's the primary songwriter?
Yeah, so we all really write.
Awesome.
So on the record, it'll be it's dependent on each song, like who did what exactly. Sometimes it can be kind of the classic, I'm the guitar player, I come into the studio with the guitar riff, and then we write a song on that. Sometimes it's just, let's all hang out on, Friday, and we have nothing. We come in with nothing. We just try to write something there, create a beat or a keyboard track or a guitar or a melody. And then other times, I'll come up with a chorus just singing in the shower, and then it's like, oh, that's great. A lot of times I actually like to write not with the guitar, because I find that if I'm playing guitar, I'll just do muscle memory, like stuff I've already played. Yep. You're not really. So I like to sing stuff and voice memo, wake up. You have a dream where you hear a really good song in your dream and you wake up and try to record it.
Yeah. No, I get it. For sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're a guitar player. So in terms of your influences, I'll say both writing and playing, who would some of those be?
So, the story of how I really got into guitar playing was I was playing casually, like acoustic guitar, strumming, starting around 10 or 11, just figuring out the chords. And I had a few years where I wasn't really taking it that seriously. I could play a few songs and I was kind of happy with that. And I was driving home from summer camp, I think when I was 12 or 13, and my dad had in the car the Ozzy Osbourne, Randy Rhoads tribute album.
Yes.
And that's when I heard that and thought, I've never heard anyone play guitar like this before. This is crazy. How do I figure out how to do this? So I got to put Randy Rhoads as kind of the pinnacle of my inspiration, influence.
Good choice.
He's the one that really started me down the path of, let me take this seriously. And then obviously when you have him as an influence, you fall into, the Eddie Van Halens of the world and all the greats, So, but I got to really put him at the top, because without hearing that record, I don't know if I'd even be playing guitar.
Wow.
Two interesting things about both of those players is obviously Randy was a classically trained player, taught, and Eddie didn't read music, and a lot of people don't know that. And if you take both of those kind of ends of the stratosphere, I think, in my opinion anyway, they were probably two of the most influential.
Yep.
And I'm a drummer, and I can appreciate that. I mean, from there spawned the Steve Vais and the whoever,
Absolutely.
right? But
Yep.
those two guys, I think, are from, I'll say, post 77 on. They're national landmarks, I guess, if you will, in terms of guitar playing.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that because I'm actually classically trained as well. I went to classical music conservatory for 4 years and classical composing, and
Wow.
It's definitely, it can be helpful some, but when you're writing like a good rock, good pop song, a lot of times that stuff, I just throw that stuff out the window. Yep. I think at the end of the day, it comes down to like, do you have creativity? Like, can you write a song? Can you connect with people? And that's the great thing about, both those players, is that they understood that the song comes, they're amazing players, the best players. They still knew like the song comes before whatever I could do on guitar. And then that's like the icing on top of a great song.
Well, you nailed it right there. Cause I mean, you can look at, D by Randy Rhoads, and then it's like, how did you go from there to Crazy Train? You can look at Eruption by Eddie Van Halen. How did you go from that to You Really Got Me? It's like, so you're bang on that it has to be the song. So it can't be just like being, a virtuoso player. You have to be able to be part of that chemistry and write a good song that everybody gets. Doesn't matter what your influence or your background is in music, that you want to dance to, you want to sing along to, that you're into, that you can relate to, right? And that's what those two guitar players were to me, for sure. And it sounds like it was to you too.
Yeah, I mean, look at it, like especially Randy Rhoads. Look at his guitar solos. I mean, the guy, he can play as fast as anyone, but it's how are those solos constructed? I mean, they're so thematic. He knows when to play fast. He knows when to, play a great melody. He's not always, it's just like that idea of, even with the solo, he knows this has to be impactful on someone. It can't just be about me showing off like the crazy licks I can do. Like, how do I turn this and elevate the song into something? I mean, especially on the live record, because the solos on the live record, I think are way better than the ones on the record. He clearly had some time with those over playing on those tours, and the Mr. Crowley live.
I was just going to say that. I said, Harrison, you and I just met, but I can guarantee we're kindred spirits, because a good guitar solo to me is one you can sing along to. And I was just going to say, Mr. Crowley is that solo that, oh my God, you know what I mean? It's like you can sing along to it. It's melodic, it's real, it's heartfelt, and it emotes. It translates well to anybody who's listening. So good on you, brother, for 27 years old.
That's a big one. Like a guitar solo that you can sing along to. Like because guitar players forget, like 90% of the people, if you have a hugely successful rock band and you're a guitar player, 90% of the people listening to you have never picked up a guitar in their life. So you could be doing like, oh well, this is string skipping and this is arpeggios and this is this, that, and the other thing. But if it doesn't work with the song and it doesn't elevate the song and kind of like, do that spine tingly thing to people, then they're not going to care about it.
I used to play with a guitar player years ago, and I used to give him a hard time about the fact that he practiced so hard to impress guys, because that's all it was. And he used to get so mad at me. But it's kind of like, okay, the dude over there that's playing like 5 notes and 3 chords is like getting way more attention, and like, and he would get savage. But he was like, well, you're making fun of it. I'm not making fun of it. Get my point. You're the fastest guy I've ever heard, but you can't write a tune. You know what I mean? Like, and it's just, that's kind of what we're talking about here.
Yeah, there's like some funny internet memes that it's like a cartoon of the campfire guy like playing the campfire guitar, and it's like all the hot chicks are around him, and then there's like Shredder dude like alone in the corner, and like all the dudes with the band tees and like beers are around him.
Well, to be fair, I was a big Rush fan growing up. Yeah. Sean was a big Kiss fan, big Mötley Crüe fan. Rush hung around with more guys. He hung around with more girls. So I finally learned the success ratio. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but Rush gets a pass in my book.
Yes.
I love it.
Yeah, there's Rush and everybody else. There's no question.
Yeah.
Now, it's really funny how Dave claims to be a Rush fan, but we tried to end a song a few weeks ago and he couldn't figure out 4/4. So go figure that one there. But Anyway,
Subjective. It's all subjective.
so back to your album. Where did you guys record it? How long did it take?
So we recorded it in a studio that we rehearse in as well, down in by Union Square Park in New York. We also recorded a bunch of it right here. Actually, you can see we're already working on the next album. You can see
Oh, cool.
my Pro Tools session.
Ah,
This is my break from working on music. So, you know, with the internet, and everyone has drives that are 10 terabytes big that fit in your pocket. It's very easy to, you know, record in one place and record another. So it was mainly recorded between those two places. And it's kind of hard to put a solid date on when we started, because we don't really, you know, with the way technology is and Pro Tools and how easy it is to record now, we don't really bother with like making a demo. It's kind of like we start with the song, and, you know, if you have to go back and re-record it or move stuff around, then you do that. But you're pretty much working within the same session from day one. It's not like where you had to go to a studio, you know, and demo and then get someone to pay for the demo to be made in the studio again. So, but it took us probably a year or two. And then once we had signed the deal, and once we got hooked up with Chris Lord-Alge, that's when, you know, we really started making those creative decisions of like what songs we want to have. We consulted with him a lot on you know, production elements. And what's great is that he's in LA at his studio, and I just send him over on WeTransfer, you know, the session, and he opens it up, and he'll do a mix, and then I'll listen to it. We'll talk on the phone, and it's easy.
well, here's a question for you now. And with those, you know, I don't want to poo-poo on what Chris is doing. Do you think you could have done this just as well yourself, or are you glad that you had Chris involved for that outside, maybe that hands-on experience? Like, do you find that valuable?
Oh, it's completely valuable. It's invaluable. I mean, his contribution, not even just to the mixing side of it, but also just the general advice, and, you know, because he has such a wealth of knowledge. I mean, he's been working since, you know, the 80s, producing and mixing, like, you know, every top 40 selling rock record. So, and, you know, but you also can't be afraid to, you know, for anyone out there listening to this that has a band that's working with someone, you can't also let that person intimidate you. Like, he has all these great accolades, but he treats me like an equal partner and as a creative, you know.
Right on.
So
that's cool.
So you know, he'll push back on stuff that I suggest, and you can't be afraid to push back on what they suggest, because, you know, if it goes against something that you really believe in, you know, you have to make your case for that. And but then you can't be too stubborn. I mean, he made a bunch of changes and suggestions to what we had to do, and it's always worth it to try it. I mean, you know, you try something, if you don't like it, say, oh, that didn't work out, go back to it, but never close yourself off to changing. Don't have demo love.
That's awesome. All right, let's go to our next break. Do you want to do that or no?
Well, I just want to make one statement, and maybe Harrison get your 2 cents on it. But there's been, I mean, I know myself, I've been in situations with a band where you bring your song in, and the producer wants to tear it apart. Either he doesn't like bits, he doesn't like pieces, he doesn't like a player, he doesn't like something, and it's a natural tendency of the artist to push back. It sounds to me like it's a lot more cordial what you have going on with Chris than maybe what it would have been 15, 20 years ago. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's more that, you know, I'm not sure. I think it's just a people thing. I mean, Chris is a great guy. You know, he's hilarious. You know, if he thinks something sucks, he'll be like, that sucks. You know what I mean? Yeah. But we're always joking with each other. So it's never taken as like a big slight or anything, you know, when we have disagreements about things. But he really understands the vision of the band. He understands the sound of the band. And so him being so tuned into that and just digging it from the beginning, I think made it a lot easier. It wasn't like he was, you know, a hip hop producer that was tasked with producing our track. And so there's going to be an immediate clash of like he's not really into the style of music, because that can happen a lot too, is you get a producer that's, even in the rock genre, there's a million different subgenres of that. So you could get a producer that's not really into what you're doing, but they're doing it. So I think a lot of like creative clashes can happen from that. But we were always on the same page of making this an amazing record. We kind of all had that end goal, like that platonic vision of the end, in our mind. So I think that really helped a lot when we had certain, I wouldn't even say we ever had disagreements, but it was just like, let's try this. Okay, we don't like that. Or Chris would be like, what if you took that guitar out of this part and moved it over here, or got rid of this bit? So for us, it was pretty easy. And I think that's just because we were all kind of on the same page with what we wanted to do.
That's awesome. All right, let's do this. We'll take a break. We'll come back. We'll finish up our session here. We're really enjoying talking to you, Harrison. This is Jamie's in the background listening, I'm sure. So we'll take a quick break. We'll come back and we're going to wrap this up. This is all about the band Tempt. All right. So quick break.
Barstools Bandtalk, the complete bands of music bucket list.